Wake up at dawn, coffee's brewing slow. Check the news, let the headlines flow. Black and white candles light up my screen. Patience is my saddle, keep my focus keen. 3/8 traps my rope, I'm ready to ride. Price pulls back soft, just a dip in the tide. Wait for the break, let it clear that line. Trade above the high and the profit's mine.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for Friday, May 9th, 2025. Well, I hope everyone's ready for another wild day. My goodness, yesterday was quite wild as we got a new, our first trade deal with the UK, and then the president's comments set the market on fire. We zoomed up yesterday on his comments. Hey, it's time to buy the market. And I guess they responded in a really big way. Unfortunately, they did fade back by the end of the day, and we are still a very, very extended condition in the short term on the market. But let's take a look before we dig into that, what happened overnight. Asian markets were mixed last night. We had South Korea, India, and Shanghai lower. India was down by 265 points. But then we had the Nikkei zooming yesterday up 574 points. Australia, modest increase, $39.50, and Hong Kong up $91. If we take a look at European markets this morning, they're green across the board. A lot of hopefulness on the trade talks this weekend with Switzerland, with China, and in Switzerland with China. We've got the DAX right now up 152, the FTSE's up 42, and the CAC is up a little over 62 points. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, kind of modest on those futures this morning. We've got the Dow futures right now up 44 points. S&P 500 futures are up 15. NASDAQ is doing the best, up 80 points here this morning. So let's take a look at a few other things that are going on here in the market. Let's take a look at energy. Energy markets are starting to pick up here just a little bit. And you saw yesterday a good gain in oil prices, and that is helping the producers here just a little bit. Right now, we've got oil futures up $1.27 this morning at $61.17 a barrel. We haven't seen a whole lot of action here in oil, but action in the way of gains or losses. We've been in this consolidation in very choppy conditions. But right now, Brent is also moving higher, up $63.97 a barrel. And if we have a quick look at natural gas is improving this morning by 6 cents. So interesting morning going on. If we take a look at those bonds this morning, bonds are mostly higher here today. We've been seeing creep up here in those bonds. A 2-year bond coming in at 3.87% this morning. 10-year bond, 4.38%, and the 30-year bond, 4.85%. And showing a little bit of strength right there, and that is also increasing value of the dollar. Dollar just pulling back a little tiny bit here from the high of the morning, but right now dollar down 22 cents. But you can see we've been making some moves back up here in the dollar with just a little strength. Now, keep in mind, we've got this resistance over here that we're going to have to deal with in the chart. See whether or not we can break back up through there. But watch that closely. Obviously, our downtrend is still in play here on the U.S. dollar. Let's take a look at what we have going on in the crypto markets here this morning. Crypto had a whopper of a day yesterday, and it is extending here again this morning. Right now we've got Bitcoin up $105 an ounce. Ether is up a whopping 12% this morning, $257 a coin. So just really gapping and stretching here on this pop. I'd be a little bit careful chasing that at the moment, but we are green across the board in those cryptos this morning. If we take a look at precious metals, gold had a rough day yesterday, pulling back substantially. And we do have a little bit of concern, I think, technically showing up here in the chart. We got a little bit of lower high there on gold. But like we're seeing in a lot of charts right now, a lot of wedging patterns happening, and we're still holding up there in pretty strong prints on gold. And this morning we're a little bit higher. We've got gold futures up just about $24 an ounce, $3,330 an ounce. Silver this morning is also moving up and trying to recover just a little bit of yesterday's losses. Let's see, up 14, almost 15 cents an ounce at 32.76 an ounce. Trying to get a few things going there. So, what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Friday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and really be focused in here on that price action. Shake off that bias. So first off, if you look at this pattern in here, as I've been mentioning, that right there is a very, very bullish pattern in the chart. Unfortunately, yesterday we left behind, well, maybe just a little bit of a shooting star pattern as we tested resistance up here in the chart and then ended up backing away. So watch that carefully up here. That'll be the test for the bulls. Can they push back up through that area here today, breaking through yesterday's high in the chart? And that's a big point swing. If the bears have anything to say today, well, pushing back down to test some of the support wouldn't hurt us at all. Even if it came a little bit lower, wouldn't hurt us at all. And what I think we're really doing is very volatile, wide price action whips in here, and we're just kind of sliding out here to a trend. Now this trend here is relatively steep, but we could pop from this area and continue to extend on up in the Dow. I wouldn't rule out the possibility that a little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation might come into the market. We might see this trend over here once again. So just kind of keep a close eye on that. The SPY also had a big push up, ending up settling back down by the end of the day. Not more of an inverted hammer pattern here in the chart, but we've got bulls coming in here this morning trying to pump that back up just a little bit. So watch that carefully here. If the bulls can get going, well, once again, we need to attack this resistance and then see if we can get through yesterday's high on those bulls. And if they can do that, then we've got that opportunity. We could stretch on up here to this level of the chart. Here again, a little bit on the steep side on this rally. If we start to rest or pull back and those bears have anything to say, well, we'll start with yesterday's low, pushing down through there, and then we'll see about attacking some of these lows of this consolidation, maybe sliding back to this little bit of a longer term upside trend in the SPY. Now, technically speaking, on all the indexes here, we've still got quite a bit of work to do. We're back above the 50-day, but struggling with the 200. Same thing here with the diamonds. And if we take a look at the QQQ, got the exact same thing, up through the 50-day, but the 50 is still below that 200, and we're struggling just a little bit with that 200-day moving average. Technically speaking, all three of these indexes are in bullish potential patterns if we can maintain this stretch that we've been seeing in the market. Now, looking at the QQQ, we ran up here and we tested some resistance here in the chart. and then ended up backing away a little bit. Not exactly a bearish candle like we saw in the Dow and the SPY, but what we have is a spinning top doji, a little bit of indecisiveness, and boy, big point whipsaws in that indecisiveness. Now, if we get that bullish action here today, nice push right up in there, looks like a possibility to retest that high up there, and if we can push on through, then we'll start looking for these additional levels up here in the chart, and I would suggest right now probably someplace right in there would be that next little price resistance area that we might test in the QQQ. Then remember, that's breaking the 200-day. Now, if the bears have anything to say and we were to push back, well, I'm going to guess we push back, test yesterday's low, and if that were to give up, then we might move on down here and retest the underneath side of this little choppy consolidation. Just remembering that it's pretty big price action moves when that occurs here in the market. If we take a look at IWM also had a really good day yesterday, popping up, faded back a little bit, another spinning top doji in here. Once again, very, very bullish pattern. We're already holding that longer term trend. Remember in here, this is one of the most oversold stocks out there in the market. And we can see that when we take a look right over here. We're now just testing our 500-day moving average. Our 200 is way up there in the chart. But we are back above that 50-day moving average in a relatively stretched position here in the market. I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So if the bulls have anything to say here today and they can push through, well, pushing through, we could be right back up there testing that resistance that I suggested. If we popped up in there, we might see that area. And if we can pop through there, then we'll start looking up here to see whether or not we can get all the way up there. There might be a little bit of it intermediate in here someplace that we'll have to test before we push on through. Now, if the bears have anything to say, once again, retesting the lows seems like a possibility, and that upside trend. If we hold there, no problem at all. Breaking down below that, we might have a little bit of worry. But we've got a pretty good area of price support in here to hold us. So, yeah, keep an eye on it. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX yesterday did pull back, but not as much as you would have thought with the volatility that we saw yesterday and that big surge to the upside. You know, so many people are hating on the policies and everything of the president, but boy, he says, hey, time to buy the market, and boy, they respond in a big way. Just really surged in, and as you can see, coming into that upside trend, holding in there on that would be a good sign, I think, because we have reduced the worry in this market quite a bit with this rally. Bit of a downside trend going on, so if those bulls continue to find inspiration, let's see now if we can break down below this area, breaking that upside trend, really easing that pressure here in the VIX. If the bears have anything to say, well, it wouldn't be a big surprise if we pop back up in here, retested, because we are very extended here in the short term. And here's where we're going to take a look at that. Our T2122, there's not been a time that I can remember in recent history when we have a T2122 that looks like this, where we're up against the ceiling here in T2122, and we're just sticking up here in the ceiling. It's like the ceiling's been made with Velcro. Now, we've seen times where we've bounced around up here, and we did get a little bit of that bouncing around yesterday. Lots of those times like this, but nothing where we went up there and glued ourselves to that upside move. And a lot of that is due to the hype on earnings. Now, I do think there is that possibility in here that we could see some pullback coming here in the market at any time. If we continue to see that bullishness up here, notice we don't have a long way that we could really push to the upside. So if we started to fade, just kind of keep in mind, we've opened up a very big opportunity for a pullback. So be really, really careful about chasing overextended stocks. If we take that fear of missing out is going to catch somebody here soon, and it's going to be painful, I think. If we take a look at T2108, T2108 also moved up yesterday nicely. We broke above 50% of those stocks, broke right through this area of the chart. Almost 55% of the stocks above their 40-day moving average. Unfortunately, so the bulls are really in control here, and we've created some nice support areas. If the bears decide to push back in the chart, then we don't have to worry about maybe sinking all the way back down, like some analysts are suggesting, that, saying don't rule out the possibility of retest of lows. Right now, I'm not seeing that in the chart. First thing we want to be looking at are these support levels here in the chart. T2107, however, is suggesting a bit more on that bearish side. We've got a lot of stocks pushing back up above their 40-day moving average, but we've only got just short of 30% of the stocks above their 200, which means we have a lot of stocks in this big stretch up, where the 50-day is still well below the 200-day moving averages in the charts. So a little bit of work here yet to do if we're going to start correcting that. And I couldn't rule out the possibility of a little bit of rest here eventually in these charts, a little bit of pullback. But of course, if we get more trade deals, if there's more announcements, if there's an announcement with something over China, I personally don't expect that. But hey, who knows? If there's major progress made with China over the weekend, then yeah, I see that possibility that the bulls will continue to race in. If we happen to find out there's complications with China, or China lobs more threats or whatever, we could see the market take that as a big negative. So yeah, be ready for volatility. And we're not talking about little moves. We're talking about big point moves possible. And then our T2101 yesterday did have a little modest increase in breadth yesterday on the bullish side. So you got to give yesterday up to the bulls. We finally saw some bullish breadth coming into the market, and we've got a lot of companies sliding out from under their corporate buyback restrictions. So keep a close eye on that. If we can continue to see that breadth follow through to the upside and those bulls move, I'm going to gain a little bit more confidence in the bulls if that were to occur. If we continue to see us rallying and that breadth being weak or fading, that's going to give me those concerns of that pretty substantial pullback that could be on the way here in the market. If we take a look at our economic calendar here for today, well, our economic calendar, it's a lot of Fed speak today. It's a parade of Fed speakers in here with a Baker Hughes rig count thrown in for good measure, I guess. But as you can see, Barr, Williams, Kugler, Barkin, Goolsby, Williams, Waller, and Hammock after the bell today. So lots of Fed speak in here today with the Baker Hughes. So not a whole lot going on in here, but we know Fed members can definitely move the market. So watch for those headlines on any comments that spark interest for the market. Let's take a look at what we've got on the earnings calendar here today. And our earnings calendar is much lighter today, typically are lighter on Friday. There's your list of notables. For today, you'll want to be keeping an eye on those. There are more stocks in that reporting, but these are the notables here today. We have nothing noteworthy after the bell today to be paying attention to. So grab a screenshot of that, and we'll kind of keep an eye on those earnings reports for this morning. Just looking here really quickly, we've had a couple things report already this morning. AQN trying to push a little bit higher here this morning, beating on the top line is all I'm seeing so far. DCBO, little pop and drop going on in there. We've got EMBC that has reported this morning kind of flat. ESNT has already reported this morning. A big old pop and drop going on in there, trying to settle itself out. So we'll have more of these coming along here this morning. They're not exactly the kind of stocks that really move the market dramatically, so I wouldn't expect quite the volatility that we've seen on the earnings today. And remember, we're going to start slowing just a little bit on those big notables. We do have several big notables still coming next week, but then we're going to start slowing down on some of those earnings reports. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that's click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. If you don't mind, I want to remind everyone that I have a open house coming on Monday. It's going to be a pretty hectic day. My partner is taking a little bit of time off on Monday and visiting family, and so I'm going to be running 2 trading rooms while conducting the open house, but should be no problem. So if you've got some time, come on over and join us at the open house. We'd love to see you. And well, hey, Monday morning. So hope to see you in the trading room. Free for the entire day. You guys have full access to me. Ask me any question you'd like. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up for today. Remember, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. And remember, we had quite the volatility in the market yesterday. So there's a lot of stocks showing up with some really good patterns. Lots of stocks showing up with really good patterns, more than I can cover here this morning. So just remember to make sure to consider the market condition and how extended we are. You just want to be careful in chasing some of these to the upside. First off, Valero Energy. As you guys know, I've been noting Valero Energy and had this alert set on here. Talked about that yesterday. Got that nice pop in here, moving on up. Keep an eye on that. I don't know if you want to chase this here, maybe let that rest a little bit back and then take that next opportunity. But Valero looking really good for that upside move here in the market. Take a look at Shopify. Shopify disappointed on earnings, dropping below here just a little bit. But one of the things we've been seeing here lately is as soon as they disappoint on earnings, it's a buy point, and everybody's buying them back up. So watch that carefully. That possibility that could still stretch on up here and pop that alert might be worth paying attention to on Shop. So watch that closely. Boy, we've been seeing some movement in some of these ag-related stocks. Archer Daniels, not so much yet. Still trying to set up in here. Let's keep an eye on that. If we can get that little bit of bullishness going, and you can see we had a nice pop yesterday, so keep an eye on that. But if we look at Mosaic, my goodness, Mosaic has just run like crazy to the upside. Any rest or pullback would set up an opportunity there. And if you look at like CF Industries moved up nicely, had a little bit of a rough day yesterday, but breaking through that resistance up here. If we can rest or consolidate right in this area, I would look for that next opportunity there in CF Industries. You know, not exactly the biggest ag thing in the market, but cannabis had a pretty good, whoops, not corn. There we go. Crone. had a really big pop yesterday on its report, breaking this downtrend in here. So keep an eye on that. If that rest pulls back in here, sets up that opportunity, may see some opportunity coming up there. CGC has still got to waiting for its report on the 29th, but also setting up quite a bullish pattern in there. I'd keep an eye on that. And MSOS also showing that bullish pop possible in here after breaking through some resistance. Might want to be keeping an eye on a little bit of cannabis. On the uranium side, well, we're still looking good in uranium. Got a little bit of bullishness, trying to push a little bit yesterday. I like CCJ. I think that's a nice looking chart. Needs maybe just a little bit of rest now. Been talking about this one for a long time, so hopefully some of you are in it, making money on it. CCJ looking good. UEC, another chart that has been doing quite well. A little bit of a pop and drop yesterday, but as long as we hold above that support area in the chart, I think UEC's got some potential, so keep an eye on some of those uranium plays here in the market. Now, as the dollar goes up, that could have negative effects on some of these, but I still think they're worth paying attention to because all the announcements and things that have been coming on uranium starts. For example, 3 uranium projects from Google here recently. Take a look at Bumble. Boy, Bumble went like a rocket yesterday, breaking through multiple layers of resistance and price action. A little rest or pullback in there. I wouldn't want to chase that candle, but a little rest or pullback would set up an opportunity for an entry there. Crowdsource could be struggling here a little bit with this resistance, but look at this big W formation here in the chart. If this could rest up in here and hold maybe just a little bit, I think there's still that opportunity we could attack these highs and break on through. Worth paying attention to anyway. IBM is another that has been stretching big time to the upside. Popped a little bit more resistance here in the chart. If this were to rest or consolidate, I'd keep an eye on that one. AMD has been one of those that has just been pounded to the downside for a long time. Finally received an upgrade from one of the institutional players out there. We're starting to get that little bit of bullishness coming in there. Watch that close if you're not already in. Little rest or pullback might set up an opportunity in there on AMD. Worth paying attention to for sure. Other places in the market, take a look at the financials. Financials holding up pretty well here, continuing to stretch through. Yesterday, big old pop left a shooting star behind in XLF. But let's keep an eye on some of those big banks coming back around and really stretching in there to the upside. Worth paying attention to if you get a little bit of rest. In Disney, after its earnings just went like nuts to the upside, just bang all of a sudden, still stretching in that upside move. So what we need now is a little rest, a little consolidation, and that would set up an opportunity in Disney. So keep an eye on that. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to here this morning. There's obviously a lot more out there that I could mention, spend the next hour talking about all the stocks that are moving and moved yesterday, but don't want to bore you that much. So I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you a wonderful weekend. Take care, everyone. Be safe. We'll see you right back here bright and early Monday morning. Y'all take care. Hope to see you at the open house on Monday as well. And have a fantastic weekend. Take care, everyone.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart where the profits prevail.